What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So in today's video, this is going to be another discussion video on an OPTC how-to, basically giving you guys a beginner's guide as to why I think Sabo Koala one of the best legends in the game. Just giving you guys just a quick rundown of what they do and some of the best units that you can use with them, and basically how to build with them in terms of their sockets and cotton candy suggestions. So without further ado, let's get into it, because this video, usually these types of videos, you know, around 15 minutes plus. So I want to try and see if I can get it down as low as possible. So let's get into it. Okay, first thing you need to know is that every single variation, whether it be Sabo or Koala or their dual form, they are always going to be Free Spirit and Cerebral. So that's actually really good for a couple different teams. So that's going to be really cool. Strength is Sabo, Int is Koala. Always make sure you know what color's which, so you know when to have what character out. Now, their stats are really good. So the thing with them, I would always suggest Attack Cotton Candy. Literally every unit in the game should have Attack Cotton Candy, and then at that point you choose between HP or Recovery. Myself personally, I would choose HP, so they would go up to 4300 HP. Though I have seen people talk about Recovery is a solid option for Sabo and Koala. I personally disagree with that. At least on Global, we can have the ability to remove Cotton Candy from characters. So if you do want to change your build on a character, you can do that quite easily now. I would still personally suggest to you guys out there to give them HP and Attack. I think it's just a much better option, in my personal opinion anyway. Now, as for their captain abilities, when Sabo is the character out, Sabo, by the way, is the first character that actually will appear on the screen. He will go ahead and boost Free Spirit and Cerebral by 3.25 and give your Free Spirit and Cerebral 1.2 times HP and Recovery. A lot of people forget about this Recovery boost. It's so significant. It does add a lot of additional health whenever you pick up a Recovery Orb. You're going to be healing for a pretty good amount. So it's nice to have that. Now, when Koala is switched into the captain, you get this captain ability of a 3 times captain to Free Spirit and Cerebral. You get only a 1.2 times HP boost. She does not boost the recovery stat, but instead of, you know, getting the recovery boost, you will get an additional attack multiplier every time you hit it perfect. So you get an additional 0.1 times added to the 3 times. Now, it's added, not multiplied, by the way. So it goes from 3 times to then 3.1, 3.2, etc. It gets 0.1 every single time. After 5 perfects, you get 3.5 times attack, and your last character will be hitting for 3.5. So really good. So Koala is going to be the hardest hitter, whereas Sabo, on the other hand, is the one that's more healing based. And a lot of people would think that would be the other way around, but it's not, which is kind of weird. Anyways, for the dual captain ability, it's going to be a 4 times captain to Free Spirit and Cerebral, 1.2 times HP and Recovery, and also you get the additive 0.1 every time you hit it perfect. So it's literally just combining both captain abilities of Sabo and Koala together with a higher multiplier. So you get the recovery boost, you get the additive with the attack multiplier. So obviously it starts off at 4 times, and every single perfect you go up to a 4.5 times after 5 perfects. Really strong. They also have different sailor abilities depending on which character is out. So if Sabo is out, Quick and Int are beneficial for themselves. If Koala is out, Strength and Sight are beneficial for themselves. And then when they're in their dual form, all colored orbs are beneficial for themselves. Pretty good. The secondary one is also nice to have as well. You get 100 base stat increase to Free Spirit and Cerebral. That's pretty nice to have. Not overly essential, but it's nice to have for sure. Now, their special ability is kind of crazy, and it's part of the reason as to why they are as good as what they are. Because they change block and badly matching orbs into matching. That's okay. In my personal opinion, I would have loved for them to just say change all slots on Free Spirit and Cerebral into matching, including block slots. That would have been perfect. Though that's like the only downside to their specials. They only will change block and negative orbs into matching. But on top of that, they will boost the attack of Free Spirit and Cerebral by 2.25 for 1 turn. So they are their crew's own type booster, which is massive, very important. They also remove beneficial and non-beneficial orb buff or debuff duration completely. What this means is if there is an enemy that gives you like type orbs negative for a certain amount of time, their special ability completely removes it. Though on the other hand, if you have some sort of other special ability that grants you beneficial slots, their special ability will also remove that. So it's nice to have this ability to do that, and it means that you don't have to bring a dedicated character on your team, like with a multiple turn beneficial orb enabled to carry that through multiple stages to avoid enemy preemptives. You can just use their special ability to remove it, which is really, really good. And obviously they do fuse for 3 turns. Now, with all dual units, they do get their swap ability. With Sabo and Koala, it's so good. When you activate the swap, They will remove all despair and paralysis on themselves completely. They will also change their own orb into matching, and they will give your free spirit and cerebral characters a 1.5 times color affinity. That's pretty awesome. With their switch ability and their special active, you're guaranteed the matching orb on themselves. You give your crew a 1.5 times color affinity and a 2.25 times type boost. With their captain, if they're set as the captain, 4 times captain up to 4.5, as well as a 1.2 times HP and recovery boost. This character is pretty much perfect. Obviously, there's a couple of things that could have been changed to make them even better. But, I mean, hey, the character is pretty awesome as it is. Now, on top of that, they have actually very good limit break abilities, reducing the recovery bind duration by 7 turns. That's pretty decent. They remove slot bind by 10 turns, which is, like, equal second best, like, slot bind that you could get. I think maybe some characters might be a little bit more. Most of the legends nowadays remove slot bind by 10 turns. If it completely evaded slot bind, that would be even better. But their pinch healing is one of the best pinch healings in the game. If you're below 50%, you get 1.5 times their recovery healed when you hit a perfect with them. So that's one of the best pinch healings in the game. It's so good. And that's part of the reason why some people were suggesting to give recovery cotton candies to this character, because under 50% health, that's going to happen relatively often, especially if it's more difficult content. And the fact that you can just hit a perfect and heal for an additional, you know, whatever it is, 150 recovery, depends on multipliers and such. And sailor abilities on top of that will also affect the amount healed from a pinch heal as well. People were suggesting to give recovery candies. I think personally that I would still give them HP candies, just because they do boost health. So it's nice to have the additional health. Because you get a lot more HP from this and this multiplier compared to this and a pinch healing multiplier. I don't know, it's just my personal opinion, but I have not played around with this character literally at all. So once I play around with the character a little bit more, I'll probably get a little bit of an idea as to how they should be built, but at this current point in time, I would suggest HP and attack. So now let's talk about the different sockets that you can give to Sabo and Koala. Now remember, as we just mentioned, with their switch ability, they completely remove despair, which is pretty awesome. And because of that, some people do say not to run despair sockets on the character. I can understand why, because if you have the switch ability just to switch and remove despair, well, they also remove paralysis as well, but if you can just switch and remove despair, then you don't even need despair sockets, right? That is true to an extent. But what happens if you are the dual unit and you get despaired? Well, you can't get rid of despair then. At that point, I would suggest to run despair sockets. This was the same thing that came around when Luffy and Ace first released, because with their switch, they also removed despair on themselves. The same thing with CatDog. I think CatDog also removed despair on themselves as well. But, you know, still, I would still suggest to run Chain, Despair, Cooldown, and Heal. Those are the 4 that I would suggest to run on literally nearly every legend in the game. There are some outliers like Corazon, NL, etc. that you could run some different builds for, like V2 Katakuri even. But, honestly, for a character like this, I think I would typically go with this. Though, there is another build that you could go with. You could go for, like, legitimately, like, ultra, uber, stally type, right? You could go with stuff like this, and like this, and like, this. Like, you could run a character that's literally built to be defensive in every way, shape, and form. You don't need Despair if you're going to be staying in their normal form until a burst turn or something like that. So you could run like Uber Mega Stall. I don't know what else you'd run here. You could probably run Cooldown if you want to go a little bit faster. You could get rid of Poison. You could get a little bit more matching orbs. You know, it really depends on what you're doing. I still think that the first set of sockets here is the best way to go, but it is up to you at the end of the day. I think that the normal set is going to be just good overall for raids, GARP challenges, whatever it may be. But you can run the Uber Mega Stall one if you do like as well. So now discussing some different characters that are going to be working very, very well with Sabo and Koala. First of all, let's discuss the new batch. Obviously, when a character comes out with a new batch, typically that new character works well with the legend that releases. Obviously, there are different ones out there, but for this batch, it's definitely the case. Like, all the characters that get released work really well with Sabo and Koala. This character right here is not summonable. This is actually the new Coliseum unit arriving on One Piece Treasure Cruise Global, and he is amazing. You need to farm this guy. Obviously, when he gets released, I'll be uploading a video talking about the dungeon and different teams that I'll use. But to give you guys a quick rundown of what this guy does, can I zoom in a bit more? Yeah, there we go. Reduces enemies' damage threshold reduction and resilience buff by 5 turns, so that's already really good. Reduces the defense of all enemies by 50% for 1 turn. Great. If your captain is free spirit, which Sabo and Koala are, you will boost the attack against enemies with reduced defense by 1.75 times for 3 turns. And if during that turn you hit 2 perfects, reduce the defense of all enemies by 100% for the next 2 turns. So this is really cool, right? Because this is like the first time they released a conditional boosting special that you can legitimately carry through multiple stages. Because that first turn, you reduce the defense by 50%, you get that 3-turn conditional attack boost. If you kill that stage with hitting perfects along the way, you can literally move on to the final boss stage, and because you hit those perfects, you reduce the enemy's defense by 100% for the next 2 turns upon moving to that next stage, which means your conditional attack boost will still be active. This is the first time they've released a character like this, and remember, on top of this, he has the removal of threshold and resilience buffs on the enemy as well. This guy's really powerful and is really good on a lot of different teams. Like, you could even run Luffy and Law as the captain, and as long as Luffy's the captain when you activate the special, this will work. So that's great. This guy can be run on various different teams. Very, very powerful character to have. Bello Betty as well. She's honestly not that great. The main usage, or the main way that you would be using her if you are choosing to use her on a team, is literally just for her chain boost. That's about it. She does give you, the sign recovery orbs and such, and as a sub, she does make them beneficial for Cerebral and Free Spirit, which is cool and all, but literally the only good thing you're getting out of this is the chain boost. She does boost your recovery for 3 turns, but that's not that important. But it is what it is. The next 2 characters, we've got Lindbergh. Lindbergh is not amazing either. He's a 2 times orb booster for Free Spirit, which all of these characters are Free Spirit. And he has a sailor ability where every time another Free Spirit character uses a special, he reduces his own cooldown by 2 turns. So the way that it's working is you can use it multiple times per run, which is cool, but again, he only just provides an orb boost, and only to one class. It would have been nice if he had some sort of other special effect with his special, maybe cooldown reduction, maybe, I don't know, they could have done something else, but he's kind of bland. And this guy, Karasu, who I think is easily the best of the batch, he's really good because he's got 2 powerful sailor abilities of resisting special rewind and resisting special bind, and then with his special, he does lower cooldowns and reduce special bind, and he also reduces burn, which is pretty cool as well. So with this team, you've got really good utility and pretty serious damage output. Now, this is without cotton candies and such. You're getting pretty good damage across the board against every single color, which is really, really nice to have. So the next thing I want to talk about is just talking about different characters you can run as the captain if you don't own Sabo and Koala yourself. First one that comes to mind is Luffy and Law. Now, the thing about it is that's really, really good is that Law is a cerebral character, boosted by Sabo and Koala. And then you've got Luffy, who is a Free Spirit character, who is boosted by Sabo and Koala. So you can switch between Luffy and Law and still get fully boosted. And remember, Luffy and Law have a Rainbow Captain ability, so you can run whatever you want still. But of course, if you're running a friend Sabo and Koala, you'd still want to be running Cerebral and Free Spirit characters here. And remember, the really cool thing about this is that Luffy and Law are an orb booster with their special. So you got an orb booster, and you have an attack booster, and you got color affinity here as well. So it's just the start of a pretty good team. The only thing is that when they do combine into their dual form, they are not classified as Free Spirit or Cerebral. Though you'll still get their amazing 4.5 times captain ability, and of course that's going to boost your whole team, and Sabo and Koala is still going to boost your whole team as long as you're running the right classes. So even though they might not get boosted personally, this is still going to be a really, really good start to a good team. And another cool thing, of course, just going back to their solo forms, is every time you switch, you can bypass barriers with their attacks. So that's another good reason as to why you would even want to do this in the first place. If an enemy has a really annoying defensive effect to get around, Luffy and Law, you can switch between them, you get an attack boost for themselves for that turn, and remember, you can switch with Sabo and Koala to apply color affinity as well. So if you have type advantage, you have a type boost, you have color affinity, you're going to be doing serious damage against the enemy just with their switch effect alone. It's going to be great. So it's a really good option if you don't own Sabo and Koala, but you might have Luffy and Law, or you want to try this out, but you don't have, one or the other. You can just vice versa it. It'll work pretty good. So Neko and Inu are also a really good captain to run here as well, because they are a pretty decent captain at boosting Cerebral characters. It's just that Sabo and Koala are just much better at boosting Cerebral. They also boost Striker, which you typically wouldn't want to run if you're going to be running a Sabo and Koala as a friend. But, if there's a really powerful Striker unit that you want to bring, you can just chuck it on the team anyway. It's not going to really hurt that much. So that's another good option if you don't have Sabo and Koala as well. So what are other characters that are going to boost your usability of Sabo and Koala? So this guy right here, I think, is easily one of the best choices to run on Sabo and Koala, is Coliseum Neptune, because he is a multiple turn orb booster for Cerebral, but he also provides some of the best utility in the game, removing 5 turns of attack down, which is very big because none of the characters on Sabo and Koala's batch removed attack down. So having an ability like this is a pretty good option. Also, they will go ahead and reduce the enemy's resilience buffs by 5 turns. It does reduce defense as well, so you can run this guy and Coliseum Mauler if you really want to, but you know, they both reduce defense, and obviously you got 3 turns of an orb boost to Cerebral and Powerhouse. So obviously, the more that we're talking about it, it seems like more and more like the Cerebral characters are the way to go. Obviously, there are still good Free Spirit characters that you can run with Sabo and Koala. That's one option for an orb booster. Another option for an orb booster would be the dual unit Luffy and Ace, because they do swap the orbs, or the type orbs of Free Spirit characters into matching. So if you are running Free Spirit characters here, you can just use their special to give you more matching orbs. But they also provide a Rainbow 2x orb boost. It's not only Free Spirit characters. The orb boost is Rainbow, so you can still run all your Cerebral characters and still get your orb boosting effect, which is really, really good. Another good character that's phenomenal for this team as well is Dex Raley, because he provides a 3x chain lock and a 1.75 times orb boost. So he is really good, and he is also classified as both Cerebral and Free Spirit, so that's a really, really good option. Another one that's pretty old now, but is still a pretty solid option, is version 1 Doe Flamingo. He is a Cerebral unit, and obviously his 6+ is not a Cerebral unit anymore, and his special ability as a 6+ only orb boosts for Driven, but V1 Dofi is still a pretty solid option if he's all you have for a Cerebral orb booster. Very, very nice choice. And another one that just comes to mind right now is Trafalgar Law. This guy right here, this guy is a pretty good option, as he provides a 2.25 times orb boost to your Cerebral units as well. And one final one that I also need to talk about is Nami. Nami, dude, Nami's a really good choice. Unfortunately, on Global, we do not have her Super Evolution. Her Super Evolution is a little bit better than the original version. The only real change is that she still does the color affinity and the orb boost, but she also reduces paralysis and burn by 3 turns for your entire team. So this is really, really good to have. So she still provides a 1.75 color affinity, which that color affinity that Nami gives is better than the dual switch of Sabo and Koala. So if you were to use Nami, you would use her special first, then do switching with Sabo and Koala if you need to do switching. And she does provide a 2x orb boost to Cerebral and Free Spirit. So she's a really good option as well for your Sabo Koala teams. Something else that's actually really interesting that you can do with Sabo and Koala is the fact that they boost both Free Spirit and Cerebral is kind of significant. And what I mean by that is that you can run this combination. And it's kind of stupid that you can do this, but you are able to do it, and that is the combination of Trafalgar Law version 1 and 6+ V2 Doe Flamingo, because you've got Law being a Free Spirit unit and this Dofi being Cerebral. So you can run whatever other units you want to put here. You could say put Neptune for an orb boost, you could put Luffy and Ace for an orb boost, you could do really whatever you want. But the fact that you can have, you know, these 2 units where you can have this unit bypass defensive effects for the rest of your specials and then use V2 Doe Flamingo special ability, that is kind of crazy, honestly, because you've already got this character here that provides your 2.25 times type boost to your whole team. Typically, if you run this combination, these characters are usually not boosted, or like one of them's boosted and one of them's not boosted. But to have this character as a solid captain that can run that, it's kind of crazy. So something else that's great about Sabo and Koala with their Free Spirit and Cerebral boosts is that they get access to some of the best utility units in the entire game. Like, you've got characters such as Limited Rare Recruit Toadskii, which I know a lot of people out there probably don't own, but I need to address it because, like, she's so good, right? Because she will go ahead and reduce attack down and increase damage duration by 5 turns. Again, attack down was not an ability that the new batch could get around. Also changes block, strength, and quick orbs into matching, even though Sabo and Koala already do that, but still, it's cool. But also gives you 3 turns of a 2.75 times chain lock, so she's so good for those teams. Another one that's really good is Bobbin, and because he's Free Spirit, reduces like 5 turns of nearly every defensive effect in the entire game. So good. You've got Karina as well. Karina being a character that you don't see too oftenly used, but still is very good. Reduces the threshold damage reduction, percent damage reduction, resilience, end of turn damage. Also does some orb shuffling as well. Like, she's really good. You've got limited rare crew Bonnie as well. Like, I mean, limited rare crew Bonnie, she does do the orb shuffling of the block orbs into recovery slots, but you know, you get the healing, you reduce bind and paralysis, and because your captain is free spirit, you can get the secondary effect as well, which will go ahead and reduce recovery down, special bind, and also blindness as well. So again, Bonnie, a phenomenal choice as well, and one that not a lot of people use too often, but is also very good, is actually Praline, who is a cerebral unit, and she reduces, again, increased defense, percent damage reduction, threshold, and does some orb shuffling as well with some healing. So like, all these units that are able to remove all these debuffs are going to be so quintessential for Sabo and Koala for clearing content. So those are very, very important units, and obviously that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are a bunch of other characters in the game that you can use with Sabo and Koala that will help you clear content much easier. But typically, you've already got your color affinity and your attack boost. You want to run an orb booster. So I guess for the example, we could go Luffy and Ace just because they are a rainbow. They're a rainbow orb booster, but you could definitely run whatever you want, to be quite honest. And then at that point, you've got attack, you've got color affinity, and you've got an orb boost. Like, at this point, you can literally run like 3 utility units, just depending on what the content really is. You've got Bonnie, who can reduce a bunch of different, you know, debuffs. You could bring Bobbin if you want to reduce enemies' defensive effects that come up, you know. And you could bring another character if you literally want to get rid of all of these orbs and get guaranteed matching slots or whatever you want. That's another good option as well. You know, if you are running a full cerebral team, you could legit run the Zunisha ship, which will give you the recovery in tandem orbs as beneficial as well. So you could run someone like Neptune as the orb booster instead if you're running, you know, the full cerebral team, and that would work even better. So there are different options, and it really comes down to what content you're facing. But really, because Sabo and Koala do so much already, you basically just need, you know, an orb booster and then 3 utility units, and that's more than enough typically to get you through a lot of content. And because they become either strength or int, that's really nice that you've got strength, which is good against, you know, Dex, of course, and you've got int, which is neutral against everything and super effective against Psi. So if you do need to run like more neutral based damage, then you can definitely do that with Sabo and Koala. You know, if you come up against a quick enemy, you can just go ahead and switch them to int to get that neutral damage instead, and then run some Dex units as subs. You know, I guess if you want to get some guaranteed matching orbs, you could run Cracker, who's a cerebral unit, gives you a full board of Dex orbs and treats them as beneficial for your turn as well. And then obviously, like, I mean, even at that point, you know, you could run someone like Shanks. You know, you can run V2 Shanks, who, you know, obviously you don't really want to use him as his type boost if you're running, you know, if you got your strength Sabo and Koala out. But if there are some other units you want to run, you can run V2 Shanks to give you a full board of int orbs, which is good if you're running like a mono int team with Sabo and Koala. That's a pretty good option as well. Like, it really depends on what you're doing, but there are lots of options for Sabo and Koala, and that's what makes them so good. And they're such a powerful captain, a 4.5 captain after your perfects, pinch healing, recovery boost, HP boost. There's so much that they can do, and that's why I personally think they're one of the best legends in the game. But that's pretty much the quick rundown. Obviously, we didn't go over too many units here, but basically any cerebral or free spirit unit, they're going to be a pretty good asset to the Sabo and Koala squads. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.